Hello everyone! Today, very interesting topic, and not only today because this episode will be divided into two parts. The topic about continuous delivery, continuous deployments, how to achieve it in legacy applications, in greenfield applications. Is it possible to just go directly into continuous deployments and change the way how you work today and the way how you will work tomorrow, or you will need to go step by step? You will know everything about it after watching both episodes. And today we will focus on the first part. So what is the difference between continuous deployment and continuous delivery? Is it possible to achieve it immediately or not? How to do that in legacy applications and what kind of potential problems you will have in the legacy app. And in the second episode, which will be released next Friday, we will talk about the greenfield application situation and the tooling which you can use for it. And by saying tooling, I want to cover several different scenarios. So the backend services, the front-end applications, or if you want to be cloud agnostic or you just want to go with one cloud provider, I will talk about entire topic in the second episode. So let's start today's part one. We are going to look first into some statistics which I prepared based on the source that you can see in this slide. So as you can see, there is around 11%, so only 11% of people who release the application multiple times per day. So here we will probably have the case of continuous deployments or continuous delivery. And I will talk as well about continuous delivery. What is the difference between both? And then around 27% release every month to 6 months. So this is quite rare release. And the most of people release once per week to once per month. When we are talking about continuous things, there are usually three topics: continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment. Today I will focus on everything besides continuous integration. What is continuous delivery? Imagine that you have an application, and in this application you just code some kind of a feature. Then you are trying to merge it to the main. And you can do that with trunk-based development, you can do that with feature branching, whatever, however you prefer to work. And from this particular time, everything that happens is automated until the production state. So let's say you might have some staging environment, or you might have a pull request environment which is created for each pull request fresh. And then on these environments, there are some tests that are running. So you can imagine that, of course, you have unit tests, you might have as well integration tests and end-to-end tests, which are testing your business critical paths. And whenever everything is fine with that, so you see that all the statuses are green, there is someone who has to manually trigger the deployment of the production. So everything here is automated until the production. To get it into production, someone needs, for example, to click the button to trigger it. And then there is a production deployment, and on production deployment, there will be probably as well some smoke tests run that will make sure that the business critical paths are working correctly. And here, from the perspective of how this environment works, you might have just canary releases, or you might have blue-green deployment, where you are providing traffic to increase this traffic based on some metrics, policies, and so on, that you don't put everything, so the entire traffic, directly to the new version of production. But it's up to you. You can do that. You don't need to do this. And if you don't need to do this, then you have this other options like canary releases or blue-green deployments on anything else. And here we come with continuous deployments. How does it differ from the continuous delivery? Here, everything is automated. And by saying everything, it's from the code that is, for example, in the pull request. So after merging this code to main, everything goes automatically. Or if you are following trunk-based development, you are just merging directly to main and everything comes directly. So what do I mean by everything? As in previous example, here you will have, of course, all this testing that I mentioned before and so on. You might as well have some kind of a preview deployment, so preview environment on which you will run first all the tests before deploying things to production. But here, very important thing is that there is no one who has to manually trigger the deployment. So here, there is no one who will push the button will be pushed automatically. How can it look in practice? You can think about the environment where you are merging your changes to main and then all the tests are running. Then there is this preview deployment. You can name it however you want. It can be, for example, this staging environment or so. And if everything is green, then automatically the code is taken and deployed to the production. And here again, it might be deployed directly to production, or it might be deployed to the canary release candidate, or you can use these blue-green deployments. And now, if you, for example, use the canary deployments, then you will have some metrics and policies that will watch how this release candidate with traffic of 5%, 15, 25, 35, and so on operate. If there are no errors, so no 400s, no 500s, if you have the policies that there are some other errors, if there are some other errors, then you have to cut out this release candidate, then you are just cutting it out and the old version of production works. But if everything is fine, then it's promoted to the production environment, and then 100% of users are using the new version of your code. So here we have continuous delivery, which is one manual step for triggering the deployment to production, versus continuous deployment where you have no manual steps at all. So only manual steps are coding, the review of the pull request if you are using pull requests, and that's it. These are the manual steps in continuous deployments. Can you always start continuous deployments? Yes and no. And I will tell you why. All depends if you and your organization would like to change. So if you see the need for doing it, because if you deploy like maybe once per 3 months, and you have 1 month or 2 months of manual testing and approving all the stuff by manager and another manager and another manager, and you feel fine with it and the organization feels fine with it, then you don't need to do that. Of course, it would be great, but you should be the trigger. So your team, you should be convinced that it hurts you. You don't want to do this manual testing. You don't want to wait for these approvals. You want just to get fast customer feedback as fast as possible, and you just want to follow with that. But if you feel like you don't like it, you don't want to do that, you want to improve it, it can't be done like from day to day. It will be a process. So you can imagine that you have some 3 months deployments, and then you can cut it down to 2 months to 1 month, and so decrease it to some point. But I will talk about it in a moment. Migration to continuous deployments depends a lot on the state of the system that you have. So not only about the organization that is around you, but as well about the age of your environment. If you are working with the legacy one, or you are working in a greenfield application, because here the steps will be a bit different. First, we will start with legacy applications. Before looking how we can go into the continuous deployments, I would like to first talk about some potential problems that you face in legacy app and what consequences are because of this. First point is that probably you have really bad deployment process. So you have scripts that you have to manually trigger. You need to prepare the packages with zip. You have to follow the manual installation. Then you have a next problem, manual testing. And this manual testing will take you weeks. And the problem is that in these places where you start to click to test something, your team will decrease from the size because people will try to just find something more interesting, because this is boring work. You don't want to click it manually. Then you have not that many releases. Why? Because you have this problem in point 1 and point 2. There where you need to do a lot of manual work, there can't be too many releases. And because of the problems of point 3, you want to put as many features as possible to your release. And your users start to be overwhelmed with this. They don't know what came here, what came there. They will not touch all the features, because if you have to look at 10 new features, you won't do that. As a result of realizing point 4, you start to have the problem of a lot of bugs, because the more we add, the more potential issues we have. It's obvious. And what is the results of the last 2 points? You have more and more customers who are dissatisfied from using your application, and from the release to the release it's worse and worse. Effects: you have poor rating, customer feedback is really bad, and customers are starting to migrate to other solutions. The next very important fact is that you are not able to keep your team motivated because of all these problems that you have. And this leads to the issue that because of whispering marketing, people are passing the information that, hey, this company is great, maybe from the culture perspective, but the projects are really bad, so you don't want to work there. So your competitors will be in front of you, what in a result will lead to some kind of a funny statement that, hey, we want to be in a year there where our competitors are today. So in a year, your competitors will be probably again 1 year in front of you. And all these mentioned problems will or might bring you to the moment when your application costs of maintenance will be too high and you might just have to close the whole company. Okay, I talked a lot about problems, issues that you will have there. So this is the time for the solutions in your legacy app. Do you remember when I talked about shortening release cycles? So if you have it 2 months and you have a lot of problems, then shorten it to 1 month and have more problems. Yes, that's the way to go, because this is the way that will trigger the change inside your team or inside the organization. So not cutting it from 3 months to 1 day or multiple times per day, but from 3 months, try to cut it to 2 months and spot where are the biggest problems in your cycle. The first step that you can do here to just follow into the direction of the continuous deployments is vertical slice. What does it mean? It means that you are dividing your feature into several different fully usable parts. What could be an example of it? Try imagine the upload functionality. So you want to allow users to upload images, to upload videos to your page. And in a normal way, you will probably go and do all at once. So you will prepare a feature of upload and it will be possible to upload huge files, a lot of different extensions, of course, multiple files, drag and drop, normal selection, and many, many more. So with vertical slice, it will work a bit different. You can start with first vertical slice that will allow the user to upload by selection one file, which will be the image of 3 different formats, or a movie with 2 different formats. This is fully usable, so users can upload the file. And now after releasing it, so here you are shortening this release cycle with that because the feature is ready after 1 or after 2 weeks. The first slice is ready and you don't need to develop it for 3 months or so. Then you see the customer feedback. You can see as well, observing the application, if this area is used, because you might had a great idea, but this feature is not used by anyone. So then throw it away and forget about it and look how many money you saved. So if it will be accepted and you will have then a customer feedback that, hey, it would be better to have multiple files upload, create a next vertical slice with multiple files upload. Then you might have feedback like, hey, but there are only 3 extensions for images, 2 extensions for videos. So allow more extensions to upload. So this is another vertical slice. And then someone might say, hey, I would like to have drag and drop. And if this feedback is repeated by many different people, then you are preparing another vertical slice. So you are dividing, instead of one big feature for 3 months, you are dividing it to different parts, and by observing the customers, you are reacting to it. Second point in the direction of continuous deployment is to shorten the feature branches. So if you are not working with the trunk-based development, you are working with the branches, you probably might have spotted that you have branches that are taking way too long. So 2-3 weeks of work, and there is huge amount of work. If you open such a branch, you will see that you change 65 files and you have 120 commits on it. Now imagine how the reviewer will feel about it, and how long will it take to first review it and then repeat this review and rework cycles on all these files. And do you think this code review will be really deep? In best case scenario, yes. In worst case scenario, someone will say after putting 5-10 comments that, hey, looks good to me, and you can merge it to main, and then you will see problems. So instead, try to keep your branches short, like maximum 1 day. The shorter the better. And then you will have like a branch where only 5 files are changed, 8 commits are there, and it is quite easy to review, rework, and then it's already in the production and everyone else can work on the newest version of the code. Next step is very important. So if you don't have any automated tests, you have manual tests, don't start with fully blown automated tests for entire pyramid of testing. If this is the most popular, so UI-based application, you can create here smoke tests. And the smoke tests should cover the business critical paths. And by business critical path, I mean that if someone puts something to the shopping cart, then he clicks go to checkout, then he says order, then everything works fine from that perspective. If the button is shifted, or the image is ugly cut, or something is not visible in a page what is not business critical, then accept this artifact and take it to the next release that you are just planning. Or you can fix it immediately and then create another release. But of course, if you have a lot of manual testing, it will take a lot of time to bring this release with this fix to the production. So this is some kind of a change of the mindset. You need to accept the fact of the artifact in the production, that there might be something like that, but it's not related to the business critical path. Then we are closer and closer to continuous deployments. Very big step here is to bring in the canary releases or blue-green deployments, where you have a production environment, the release candidate that can be promoted to production, that 15, 25, 35, 50, 60, 70%, of course, iteratively, of the users of the traffic is moved to this release candidate. If it is done this way, you are safer, in the meaning of you are introducing some new feature, and then people are giving you feedback, and you can decide, hey, we don't want it, it is not working as expected. A lot of people say that, hey, it's really bad. So then you just take it out, you cut out this canary release candidate or this preview environment where just partial traffic is moved, and then that's it. If you are at this step, probably you will achieve already multiple deployments per week, and it's completely fine to stop here. You don't need to go to continuous delivery or deployment. You can stop here. It's already fine to just have such a short release cycle. But if you want to follow, of course, you need to first do this continuous delivery where someone will approve the release. It might be some kind of delivery manager or release manager, or however such a person is called in the organization. And after you get trust, you can omit this step. So you can migrate to continuous deployments where everything will be automated. So after you merge something to main, whole thing to move the new feature to the production will be completely automated. So this way we came to the end of today's episode. You learned what is continuous delivery, what is continuous deployment, what are differences between them. Is it possible to just start with continuous deployment immediately or not? And how to achieve it, and what are the possible problems that you will have in legacy application. In the second part of the episode that will come next Friday, we will look into the Greenfield application, how to tackle down the problems and how to tackle down the continuous deployment in Greenfield applications, and as well about tooling. So what tools you can use for this continuous deployments. So don't forget to subscribe to channel to not to miss the second part of this video, and I encourage you to watch it next week. See you guys.